Hello everyone, my name is Pinak Paliwal, and today I am pleased to present our paper titled 3D Scene Angle Estimation Using Planar Homography. So these are the topics I'm going to cover in my talk, including the problem, our motivation leading up to the proposed solution, and we will wrap up with our results from our approach. The most exciting thing of our approach is a new method to decompose the homography matrix to extract the scene angles. We're in the middle of a pandemic. One area that is particularly impacted by COVID-19 is the education sector, where the teaching and exams are being conducted online in a remote manner. While this does serve as an acceptable solution to the enormous pandemic challenge we have, it does require that we maintain integrity of exams. One popular option is to have a side camera overlook the test taker so that a human proctor or automated video analytics software can see the work area, including the computer and test taker. One problem with this approach is that the placement of the side camera defines how well the activities of the computer screen are visible through the side camera. So we need a solution to detect the bad camera placements and raise an alarm if a camera is placed too obliquely. By camera angle, we refer to the polar angles, such as theta and phi of the computer screen with respect to the side camera. So let's define the problem a bit more succinctly. As before, our exam proctoring problem is automatically finding decent estimates of the polar angle theta and azimuthal angle theta between the computer angle and the camera. More precisely, what we want to do is apply some heuristic threshold on theta, say phi, between 20 and 70 degrees and phi between 55 and 135 degrees. Using these thresholds, we can instantaneously accept or reject a camera placement. However, the big challenge is how to estimate the scene angle to get there. This problem touched me in 2020 on a personal level as well. The National Science Bowl mandated a side camera last year, and I realized they ended up needing a volunteer to continuously observe the students and check their camera placements. Clearly, technology can help on this tedious task for sure. When I researched some previous work in this area, we found that while standard techniques exist in industry software libraries such as OpenCV to extract the homography, however, to determine the scene angle from them does require knowledge of the camera intrinsic matrix. Other methods use oversimplified models. This is clearly not practical for our problem. On the other hand, our method works without any knowledge of camera intrinsics. Rather, it uses a simple but camera practical model. We also leverage the fact that computer screens are regular shapes that are shaped like rectangles with standard aspect ratios. Delving into approach, here we can see an entire pipeline. We start by grabbing the side camera images, run it through a canny edge detector followed by Huff-line transform and an algorithm to detect quadrilateral shapes. Then we find the homography, and then we decompose it using the upper and lower matrices and utilize the 3D geometry constraints to get estimates of polar and azimuthal angles. We also use certain constraints from the vanishing points. Further, we use screen quadrilateral image heuristics to estimate the proximity of screen to camera. By using the angle estimates and distance heuristics, we can determine whether the camera position is good for automated or manual proctoring or is not. So here's how our workflow starts. In the bottom left, we have a scene image from a side camera, sample side camera. When we get to the canny edge detector, we get the image in the middle. The Huff-line detector tries to identify all the linear shapes as shown in the rightmost image. So further along the process, we implemented an algorithm to successively make pairs, triplets, and quadrilaterals of lines that are incident of each other or within a certain margin from endpoints, as shown in the middle. By following this approach, we identify the largest non-closing quadrilateral, as shown on the right. Now we can also derive some vanishing point constraints. We know that the line originating from the center and the perpendicular to line joining the two vanishing points is the image of a normal to screen plane, as shown by the red line. More so, if the vanishing point corresponds to seemingly distant edges on the left, then we know that the side camera must have been on the right of the screen. Similarly, a vertical vanishing point below the quadrilateral indicates that the camera must have been above the screen center level. This can be translated in terms of theta and phi as shown as well. Now is a good time to start diving into our proposed ULDH method, or upper-lower decomposition of homography. To start the upper-lower decomposition of homography method, we estimate the homography by estimating the planar homography using 4-point method in OpenCV and overlaying a rectangular on the detected quadrilateral. We also know that from camera 3D geometry that the viewing transformation matrix can be written in terms of polar coordinates, rho, theta, and phi as shown. This intrinsic camera matrix is only dependent on camera placement only and not on camera intrinsics per the definition. Now we try to formulate the homography based on previous extrinsic matrix and a 3-parameter camera calibration matrix with focal length and XY offset at the camera center. We realize that the product of these matrices must be the planar homography matrix. As shown here, the product of intrinsic and extrinsic matrices can be rewritten as products of square 3x3 upper and lower matrices. We also ended up making a quick implementation of UL decomposition for a 3x3 matrix. Here we show steps for the UL decomposition, which is basically done by using row reduction techniques. Now having derived an expression for homography and an estimate of homography matrix up to scale from the side camera image, we can use frame up nonlinear relation to solve for theta and phi. We must mention that our work yields only 2 nonlinear equations, while previous works offer 10 to 12 nonlinear equations, which is quite cumbersome and often doesn't get the actual solution. So here we show some data for solving the nonlinear equations using fsolve routine in NumPy. We have observed that there will be ambiguity in our solution and that 2 pairs of theta and phi satisfy the equation. This is where we use vanishing point constraints to resolve the ambiguity and derive a unique pair of angles. We also estimate a heuristic, which is the ratio of screen image area to the image area, which is indicative of the camera from the screen. We boot an image dataset for varying theta, phi, and rho values. Each image ground truth is noted down for eventual comparison with estimations later. And here's how the results look like. As in the images, the ground truth angles are shown in the screen area, while the software annotated the images with its estimations of theta and phi. We can observe that based on predefined thresholds, the software is able to discriminate between good and bad scene angles. Here we show some more sample processed images with angle estimates spanning the theta and phi domain space. As we can see, the software easily distinguishes between 2 oblique or 2 centered camera placements. Notably, centered positions are bad as they would interfere with the examinee's body or don't show the examinee at all. So estimator helps with decision-making task very well. We did some more data analysis in the ground truth versus estimated angles. Here we have filled the bad camera placement angle regions in a red color and the good ones in green. We also showed the measured and estimated angles and connected them. As we can see, out of 30 camera placements, only 2 spilled over to the wrong directions versus being declared bad when good or good versus bad. For the most part, we can see the estimated angles are fairly close to the ground truth values. We did the same exercise with increased camera distance, and we noticed that there were no decision errors observed for this case. Our overall statistics look very promising, as in the mean estimation error in theta is 3.17 degrees, and that in phi is 4.5 degrees. So overall, we are able to estimate both angles with less than 5-degree error. Our decision was based on these estimates, which was wrong in 2 out of 51 settings, indicating a 96% accuracy. We also did distance heuristic checks to identify cases where the computer screen is too far away from the camera, as in the right shown here. I'm happy to report that this approach is usable form for proctoring when I apply this to a sample image for Science Poll. The software gets the estimates and improves the camera placement. So virtual monitoring in future years can be facilitated by this approach. In conclusion, we showed a robust approach to get the precise scene angle estimation method with less than average 5-degree error. Our ULDH method is novel, simple, and expected to be very fast in real deployments. We've also developed a complete image pipeline and built for this image dataset for evaluation purposes. In the future, we wish to employ convolutional neural networks for screen image detection for more robust performances. Thank you for listening to my presentation. For any questions, you can reach out to me at the email provided in the beginning.